Okay, so now we're going to start cellular respiration. This is going to be an entire chapter over one big metabolic process. And this is a very important metabolic process. This is life. You need energy to live. Cellular respiration is how we are going to get our energy. So the first learning objective says explain the role of cellular respiration in a cell. One of those roles is what's called a complete breakdown of carbohydrates. To be a complete breakdown, that means we're going to take an organic molecule and make it into an inorganic molecule. The organic molecule that we're going to use is glucose. That's C6H12O6 we've been talking about. And we will reduce it to carbon dioxide. Remember, reduction is loss of hydrogen. Even though carbon dioxide has a carbon in it, it is considered an inorganic molecule. When we talked about organic and inorganic, I said one exception to the organic rule with carbon is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is inorganic. That's one of the roles of cellular respiration. And this is going to be important because when we talk about fermentation, that will be an incomplete breakdown of carbohydrates. So cellular respiration is a complete breakdown. The second role, let me get this off. The second role is we're going to transfer energy from one molecule to another. So the second major role is the transfer of energy. And we will see both the first and second laws come to fruition in this. We are going to take that glucose, which is C6H12O6. So if you haven't gotten that down, get it down. And we're going to convert it into ATP. While glucose has energy in it, it does not have energy that's usable. So glucose is unusable energy for metabolic reactions. All molecules have energy, just whether or not the body can use them or not. So we eat food, we have glucose, and that has lots of energy in it. Matter of fact, you can read how much energy when you see the kilocalories on the nutrition label. So it has energy, but it is not in a form that is usable. ATP, as we talked about, is a usable form of energy. So the transfer of energy is going to be from an unusable molecule for metabolic processes to a usable form of energy for metabolic processes. Both of these are chemical energy. Both of these are stored energy. So this is chemical energy, and this is chemical energy. So we see in the first law, we're going to transfer from one form of chemical energy to another form of chemical energy. The law doesn't say you have to go back and forth between potential and kinetic. It just says one form to another. We're going to go from one form of stored energy to a second form of stored energy. And this is where we can bring back that cycle for that ATP, ADP. We're going to look at the anabolic section. So if we recall, we took ADP plus phosphate, and on this side of the cycle, we built them into ATP. If you remember, if you build, this is an anabolic reaction. Cellular respiration is going to help us to carry out this half of the cycle. If you recall from that cycle, it said we brought energy into the system. We brought energy. Well, that energy is going to come from the glucose. As we break the glucose down and it releases energy, we will then store it back into our ATP. Remember, anytime we store energy into a molecule, because we are storing energy, we go this way. This is also an endergonic reaction. So it's anabolism to build the molecule ATP from ADP and P. The storage of the energy in this is an endergonic reaction. So those are the two roles of cellular respiration. One is the complete breakdown of carbohydrates. The second is the transfer of energy from glucose to ATP. The second learning outcome is what are the overall equations? So we talked about how energy and molecules move together. And so this is the overall coupled. Remember, energy and matter move together. So these are going to be the overall coupled reactions for aerobic. And all aerobic means is that we're going to do it with oxygen. You can also do cellular respiration without oxygen. So this is going to be the one with oxygen because that's one we know best. For aerobic cellular respiration. So don't forget, if anyone asks you for a couple of things, they're asking you for two things. So if I ask you for the overall coupled reactions for aerobic cellular respiration, make sure you are giving me two equations. In the first equation, we're going to look at the molecules that are going to be moving around. This is where we have the glucose. We will take one glucose molecule. We will add 6 oxygen molecules, because remember this is aerobic. And we will create, need an arrow. We will get 6 carbon dioxide molecules. Remember the carbon dioxide is what we will be breaking this down into. And we will get 6 molecules of water. And as a quick review, the glucose becomes carbon dioxide. So this is what is being reduced. We have lost hydrogen. The oxygen is gaining hydrogen. Oops, sorry. Oxidation, got this backwards. We're losing, so this is oxidation. Because oxidation is loss, and we are gaining, so we are reducing the oxygen. This is one of the two equations you need to know. The second is about the energy. So equation 2. We will be making about 36 to 38 ATP. So if you're going to make 36 to 38 ATP, you got to start with 36 to 38 ADP. You need another 36 to 38 phosphates, because we'll add 36 of these to 36 of these, and we will get 36 to 38 ATP. So the overall coupled reactions for aerobic cellular respiration are glucose and oxygen become carbon dioxide and water, and then we take the energy out of the glucose and we will transfer it to the ATP. Remember, that is the first law of thermodynamics, the transfer of energy from one form to another. And as we do that, we will lose some of that energy as heat. The second law of thermodynamics. Not all of the energy from this glucose will be captured as ATP. Some of it will also be lost as heat. And then this brings us to the third learning objective, which what are the 4 steps of cellular respiration, and where do they take place within a cell? So, let's draw ourselves a cell. If I draw myself a really big cell here, that is the cell membrane that goes around it. I'm not going to put everything into this, but the liquid inside, if you remember, this is the cytoplasm. And the other important organelle that is involved in cellular respiration, which we learned the first day, that is the mitochondria. The mitochondria is going to have 2 membranes. This is going to be the outer membrane. And then the inner one is going to be really wavy. We talked about this the first day, and I think we mentioned that the name of this is called the cristae. So the outer membrane is just the outer membrane. The inner membrane is called the cristae. And then inside the cristae, that area is called the matrix. And then you notice between the two membranes, we also have some space, and that's got the really elaborate name. That is the intermembrane space. So those are the four parts of the mitochondria. So what are the four steps and where are they taking place? So the first step is called glycolysis. And glycolysis is going to take place in the cytoplasm. It takes place outside of the mitochondria. All the other steps are going to happen inside the mitochondria. Inside the matrix is where the second and third steps occur. So 2 and 3 are both going to occur in that matrix. The second one is called the preparatory reaction, or just the prep reaction. And the third one may have different names. Your book uses citric acid cycle. So both of these are taking place inside of that mitochondria. And you can see this in figure 7.3 as well. You can see they put the glycolysis outside of the mitochondria in the cytoplasm, and they put the preparatory reaction in the citric acid cycle inside the mitochondria. Now our fourth step is called the electron transport chain. So step 4 is the electron transport chain. And the electron transport chain is going to take place along the cristae. So that inner membrane, we will have molecules that are going to be going back and forth across this membrane between the matrix and the inner membrane space. They will go back and forth, and as they do, that is where we're going to actually produce most of our energy. We will have a very important proteins along this membrane that will allow things to either use active transport or facilitated diffusion to move molecules back and forth. The electron transport chain is the last step, and it is going to take place along that wavy membrane.